Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy and I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yes, we are here with Gowns. Thank you. Yay! Thanks for joining us. I'll have you each introduce yourself in a second, but we're just looking at the old calendar and realizing it's the last time we spoke to you was about with 3 weeks before everything shut down. It was end of February 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well, hell of a year.
Hell of a year, exactly. We have a lot to talk about. It was I listened to the old interview and you guys were just going off to the poorhouse
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
for the Mill City Rock Off.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh man.
I know, isn't that? I just had to preface it by saying that and for folks who don't know this, you guys were it was a contest and you guys had gone very, very far. And I have to say, I was trying to remember and I was trying to look up. I don't even know how the contest ended up. How did that, just to catch us up with the last episode, how did that night go?
It was awesome. We go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna say I think we got third or maybe fourth.
When the last night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the first night, we arguably won. It was up to audience clapping, and it's hard to quantify clap.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but I remember the MC being like, he never like said we won, but he was like, these guys for sure, and then the next band. So we did really well the first night, and then the second night, all the cards are stacked against us. Like they ended up like moving our time to play like up like by 30-45 minutes, so none of our people ended up being able to be there to see us play. So they got us to like rally like so many people together to come see us play at this place. It's part of the ticket thing that they do, and then they moved us up so none of our fans could be there, and it was a bad start. And I think I was sick with something at that point. It was.
I remember you when we spoke to you. You had been sick for something too. You had a big fever or something.
That was Zach, I think.
Oh, was it? Oh, so it was okay. Well, I'm conflating it all. Well, that makes sense. That one would.
Yeah, that was something I never want to do again. It was like 101 fever, I think, at its peak that day, and I was like, this is awful. And yeah, on top of that, like John said, the scheduling was a little bit tough, and in general it was tough just because it was on Sunday nights, which it's tough to get people, all the way downtown on a Sunday night at like 9 o'clock. So we did the best we could. It was a blast though. It was a lot of fun. The venue is great. I don't know if you all have been, but
Huge.
It's a cool space.
Oh, it is so huge. Yeah. Like their stage is really big, and I like it. I think it's cool.
Played with a lot of cool bands.
Yeah, there was a lot of great bands.
Played with the Arias.
Yeah, the Arias. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Briggsy's the one that ended up winning the whole
Nice,
competition.
nice.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Killer vocalist for that band.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Thank you for that catch up. Yeah, it was kind of fun to hear about the contest because I thought it was a nice way to cross pollinate different bands and different audiences, and yeah, it's fun. And it was fun this week to listen back at it and go, oh, remember when that's what we talked about. It was very good.
Music existed, yeah.
Yeah, we could. So that was well. That brings us closer to present. So what I might do is again, so people can recognize your voice, because you guys are all very good with your masks. And I will explain. Heather and I don't have any because we don't have any people around us, so there's no. But if I can have you each introduce yourself a little bit, because we can't always tell who's talking. But maybe John will start with you and continue on with just who you are, what you play, what you do.
Cool. Hi there. My name is John Bear. I sing for Gowns primarily. I also play saxophone, which you'll hear on the album, a little bit of an Easter egg. And I play keys. I am from West Virginia. I'm an Appalachian boy. I've recently started to embrace the term redneck, but in its original sense as being like fighting the National Guard in West Virginia, like as like a socialist movement, as a workers' movement, as like union solidarity, you know. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's kind of my so much a part of my nervous system growing up in West Virginia, being in such an impoverished place and such an exploited place, and it comes out a lot in my personal contributions. So yeah, that's my thing.
All right, great.
Hi, I'm Brian. I play bass in Gowns. Just moved to Minneapolis about a year ago now. Grew up in Laverne, Minnesota, way southwest, down by Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Went to school in Moorhead. Moved here to play with the boys. I wasn't part of the what was it called last summer? You guys were just talking about it.
The core.
The Mill City thing.
Oh.
Mill City Rock.
I wasn't
Yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't
Yeah.
a part of the band at that time. I just joined in July.
Yeah. We were in the studio when Brian joined us.
Yep.
So
So I haven't even played a live
Yeah.
show with the guys yet.
yeah.
Wow. You
Yeah.
have that to look forward to. That's awesome. Okay. Great. I know Laverne.
Yeah.
I think I helped to bring broadband to Laverne.
Oh.
That is how I know it. Yeah, it's a nice place.
I'm Zach. I'm the drummer from Gowns. I'm from a very small town, Wapaton, North Dakota. I moved to the cities about 4 years ago now. And I met up with John and Evan. Actually, I think we talked about last year about how the story kind of happened, but
Yep.
So originally I had met Evan earlier in the summer before we joined Gowns, and we had this group together, and Evan ended up not sticking around, I don't think by choice. We kind of had this other little gremlin in the group that kind of nudged him out a little bit.
Ring your bell.
Right. And then that kind of fizzled out. And then I found John, and Charlie at the time was the guitarist, through Craigslist. And we started jamming. It was great. And we were searching for another guitarist. And it's like, Evan was like immediately popped in my mind. It's like, I got this perfect guy. I don't know what happened last summer and why we're not in contact. And like, I texted him that night, and yeah, and now he's here, and I can't imagine Gowns without him.
Oh, yeah.
What a perfect segue.
Yeah. Hi,
Evan.
I'm Evan.
Esteemed.
Yeah, I'm Evan. I play guitar for Gowns, and every so often I'll play bass, but rarely, very rarely. I'm pretty ordinary. I grew up in Minneapolis, and I've only lived here my whole life, so I am just an ordinary, boring bloke.
Oh my God.
That is not.
I'm not standing here for it. Evan. Oh my gosh. I mean, what about
Yeah, I just think we heard you're the glue that held everything, or the golden child there, Evan. Not the ordinary.
I think Mercury must be in retrograde again. It's raining out in set.
Yeah.
So you guys have had a crazy year, because like we had said before, you guys were busting out of the seams to get going, your energy, and then all of a sudden, bam,
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
How has that helped, or like tighten your group, I guess? Because you're sitting and going, what are we going to do? We had all these big plans and whatever. And then writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the one bright spot is it gave us a lot of time to kind of figure out how are we going to tighten up the album, which studio are we going to go to, and we were able to dedicate plenty of time and not have to schedule around shows. And when we're gigging, we're practicing a lot more, right? So also having that freedom to use that time to focus on refining the songs and getting them ready for the studio. So that was the one bright spot. Obviously, it was tough not gigging because, you know, that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest reasons, you know, we're a band. We love music. We love sharing music. And there were a couple, you know, when coronavirus was at its peak, its multiple peaks up and down, you know, we weren't even able to practice at that time. Our practice space, which is where we are now, was shut down due to protocol. So, you know, for the start of it, we were able to practice, but once we kind of got, we're unable to practice here, that was a big, that one sucked. It's tough, you know, and that can kill momentum, even if you're only writing and refining for the studio. Just not being able to get together and play was pretty tough. However, we did meet up. We had a lot of administrative sessions at my house, so we were able to, you know, kind of settle the nitty gritty stuff, like, you know, how are we going to distribute this? What's the name of all the songs? You know, figuring out videos, promotional material, which as much time as we spent on that, we still have a lot to figure out. I think that's like the most underrated in terms of difficulty things to figure out as a group, especially when it's all DIY for the most part. But luckily, we've been able to find amazing artists in the Twin Cities to collaborate with. And I think, you know, as it stands, we're in a really good spot. But it's definitely been peaks and valleys with it. And, you know, that's the same for everyone, you know, music or not. It's been a difficult year.
I think getting creative with finding collaborators for music videos especially was something that probably might not have happened if we were, you know, in the, you know, business as usual. You know, we've found some really beautiful collaborators for, you know, our different singles. And yeah, I don't know, did you all get the chance to watch those?
Yeah, let's talk about some of them. I mean, and starting with the most recent, or starting with Castles, or they're great.
Awesome.
Yeah, Castles was the big one that took the most time and the most planning, and we were lucky to have Zach's roommate manages Skyway Theater. I don't know if that's been mentioned in the past, but that's such a valuable thing to have for us. The whole space is ours, you know.
Yeah. Nathan Barlow acted on it, and one of the arguably the best actor in the Twin Cities, in my opinion. But
no, it's amazing in that the Skyway is such a lush place, you know. And I'm assuming there's a picture of you, and I'm assuming it's at the Skyway, all sitting on the, I'll say concession stand or someplace. Okay. And I couldn't quite place it.
The graffiti.
It's like, well, it's not the Parkway. It's not the.
With like the neon square lights. Yeah. And you know, before, and I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, once I saw the video, I'm like, oh, it's the Skyway. Of course.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's actually a little bar tucked away behind Studio B, which is one of their mid-sized venues. Right now, as it stands, I think that room is kind of like a storage / green room for whoever's playing shows there. But no, it's not. I think it's out of commission at the moment, but definitely proved to be a great spot for a photo. Part of me wishes we would have saved it for the album because it's so cool. But yeah, we've definitely went back to the well that is Skyway plenty of times. It might be starting to dry up for us at this point. But no, there's like what, 4 levels in that place.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get, you know, to every last nook and cranny in that place, just because it's so available to us, and it's been really cool to kind of have that be our like home for A, for gigs, and B, for promotional material. So shout out Dan Abel, great guy, roommate, does a hell of a job there too.
Shout out Nathan, shout out Dylan.
Yeah, shout out Joey Mixes for documenting it.
I'm just giving you space for more shout outs. No, it's a great, the video is.
Shout out to Heather, shout out to Ann.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's not what he said.
Also,
yeah. there's a tension in that video that I think is this awesome, you know,
Oh,
kind
I
of
said attention.
attention, you know, to kind of struggling to get in and all of that. I mean, it's because the front seat, the first scene, well, the song is called Castles.
Yeah.
It looks like a detention center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that that's very well done, that juxtapose. And just seeing people play in that place is such an amazing place. It's
Yeah. Well, it's uncanny valley because, you know, there's this huge venue where a band is playing and nobody's in the venue. So, you know, as our community suffers the loss of citizens by the hands of police, like George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin. Dante Wright was just murdered by Kim Potter. You know, as these things are happening, you know, like last summer, it's just so much a part of, you know, not only our social consciousness, but our nervous systems, you know, for those of us that were out, you know, getting gassed or shot at and feeling that, you know, but anyway, yeah, so both experiences were just so rich within, I think, all of us at that time. And it's funny, when the day of the shoot, you just heard like, and then just like right outside, there's just this huge, like hundreds, maybe thousands of people just walking by, you know, at this venue. And yeah, and you know, Nathan Barlow brought so much of that to the table because he is Black, and you know, yeah, so you know, we had these two things happening, you know, these two pandemics of racism and racist structures in the United States, and you also had COVID happening, and I think both of them kind of ended up flowering in the video, you know, and I think you see that COVID piece toward the end where Nathan goes into the theater, and it's uncanny valley. There's a band and there's nobody there to see it, you know, which is how kind of we feel like as we're in the recording studio, and it's just like, who are we doing this for?
no, well, we could segue because you have been active on the streets. I mean, I think, as you say, I think especially in the Twin Cities, we really acutely feel the pandemic and all of the civil unrest and the social inequities. I mean, we are the world is watching us, and I think many of us have been on the streets for a lot of it. It sounds like you guys have really been on the front lines.
We've all had a different role, you know, and yeah, my particular, I don't know, I have a vitriol, I have a oppositional defiance within me from my childhood, and you know, I'm the person, you know, I find myself protesting a lot. You know, if there's like a really beautiful vigil that's like very healing to the community, and then there's a protest, I'm probably gonna be at the protest, and you know, sometimes I need that vigil or you know, whatever, you know, that healing moment, but yeah, I do find myself protesting a lot. And Evan, do you want to speak to that, your experience with that?
Yeah, I also protest a lot, and you know, I've lived in Minneapolis my whole life, so like this, all these incidents, you know, it's nothing new. It's just we've had many brutalities from the police like throughout my entire lifetime. So just like knowing that and experiencing that at the hurt of our community is like it really does affect me in a lot of ways, and it makes me want to get out there and protest a lot. So that's it's just really hard to see how this community has like taken so much abuse, and yeah, that's
Well, and that's a good point. It's the brutality is not new. It's the recording of it.
Exactly.
I think I was at one protest and they had, I think it was 486 names of people who had been killed by the police in the last 20 years. You know, but I think I'm hopeful, especially with the verdict that we got this week, that this is a time where there can be some pivots. And I just saw they were going to try Chauvin with one of the earlier incidents.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
I mean, so many murders before Floyd, and you know, George Floyd, and you know, there's no accountability, and George Floyd would still be here. You know, that's what people talk about justice. There was no justice served whenever Chauvin got tried. It was accountability. It was not justice, because George Floyd was here.
Exactly.
No. But I think the best we can hope for is that then this will have an impact on the Potter trial with Dante Wright.
Absolutely.
You know, they will take a different look, and then real hope is that there's systemic change, especially within the police department.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
I'm curious what that's going to look like, just given the fact that so much reform and MPD 150 speaks to this, all all the investigation into the police department and all of the activism around what police reform looks like. Police reform means more money, and our communities, in the neoliberal area. Okay, I'm getting ready to put, I can stop. Just let me know.
no,
So I just feel like the paradigm with which we find ourselves in, social infrastructure has been gutted for the past 40 years. There's nothing left to give of infrastructure, as teachers and as, all these institutions of government and of the public are gutted for the sake of industry and of entrepreneurship and enterprise. There's nothing left to give, and how we have continued that paradigm is state suppression of unheard voices and the vulnerable. And I don't know how much more we can do. And I think that now, white people are starting to feel it a little bit more, and now we care. But yeah, I don't know. I just I don't know. I don't think police reform is on the table. I don't know. It just means more money. And I don't know.
yeah, I think, I mean, I definitely think that there are portions of it that are absolutely true. I choose to remain more hopeful, but I absolutely know what you're saying. I mean,
Right.
and I choose to remain hopeful. And so one of the things that I did Tuesday after the verdict, because we had scheduled it and we're on the fences, every other Tuesday I do a call to action. We
Okay.
call legislators on various bills, which
Yeah.
really in Minnesota means you call the Senate and say, please, 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 please listen to this bill. The House has already passed it, especially when it comes to police accountability or anything like that. So that's what we do.
Okay.
That makes me feel hopeful, because something's got to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Something
that
is going to happen.
something is going to happen. Yes, thank
Absolutely.
you. We can't continue down this road.
Yes. And we have to remain hopeful. I thank you for saying that. I can be very doomsday, but I mean, and the truth of it is I'm actually I'm full of love and hope for the future. We have to create it. I think that I try to look the truth in the face so that, we can create what we want to see. But and the truth is a little bit scary, but but our future is bright. I believe that. So.
Well, and this has been a perfect storm in some ways, in that, and God forbid, and obviously I wish that George Floyd was amongst us. I mean, but unfortunately something was going to happen, that it was recorded, and that it was recorded at a time when people had the time to listen to the whole story. I think that pandemic gave time for change, for people to become educated on different, views, different perspectives, if they wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that it got a lot more attention, and for better or for worse, attention is what it needed.
Yeah.
So how about the music?
Oh yeah, with the music.
It's the music makes such a difference for all of this, and I think as the Castle's video kind of attested, whether you think it affects you or not, everything that's happening in Minneapolis, if you're in Minneapolis or even outside, it does affect how everybody is seeing everything, hopefully in the best of ways.
Yeah.
It is. I always think hopefully people will look back at 2020, 2021 like we look back at 1968.
Yeah.
Did 1960 actions, 1968 get us all the way there? Absolutely not, but it moved the ball further down the field. So
Yeah.
hopefully.
Fingers crossed is right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We're taking the steps, that's for sure.
Yeah. I just, some ways I was just saying it's a step, and it's a step we have to make and keep making and keep making and keep making. So I thank you for all of your efforts being out there. And now I'll keep my eye out. Although, as I said, once it gets dark, I got a kid, I come home. And instead, everybody's got their role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm often at the 10 a.m. press conferences in front of the, with the cops or the citizens against cops brutality and some of that stuff. So I
Okay.
kind of the other
So
end
you
of it.
follow Levy Armstrong much?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Did you see her interview with Oprah recently?
You know what? I saw that it existed and then I have not had the time to watch it. Have you seen it?
I did. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah, it's cool that the truth of what our community is asking for, is getting out there by whatever means, and Oprah is a lot of memes.
It's well, I mean, I was at the government center where they read the verdict. Media from everywhere,
You were
every
there for that?
language I could recognize and not recognize, all around. I mean, and that is when you're like, well, okay, this is making a difference.
Yeah. Well, you were there for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
outside, not inside. I mean, yeah.
I was there too. Were you there for the semi truck?
No,
Okay. A semi truck started to drive into a crowd of people. So
no.
I saw
I got
of
a video.
that, yeah.
It was
probably you that I saw it from.
Yeah.
Well,
I took a little video of it.
that makes me so sad. I mean, the truth of it is, I had to go because once we heard the verdict, we decided to go ahead with the legislative actions.
Yeah.
So I had to be home to do that in time.
Yep.
That makes me so sad. That makes me so mad and sad at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Gowns, speaking to you're thanking us, like Gowns is we've had a lot of discussions about what we want to be, and there's so many bands that have no anchor. They just they fit so well into corporateness and just rise up because they don't actually believe anything and they make pretty music, and like we can't lose our soul, and so one of the values that we've talked about is truly contributing to the community that we're within, and being pious and being thankful for where our bread is buttered, and loving our place, and loving the people in our community, and the people that are ultimately, if we do find some success, it's because of those people, so
That's good. Well, it kind of gets back. Sorry, it kind of gets back to Heather, your initial question with what good has happened with this, and it sounds like the administrative meetings you had helped you get not only to how do you distribute the albums, but how do you what is our message? What is our core ethos?
Ethos. I like that.
I want to hear about your imaginary numbers song. Can you give us?
I think Zach's got the most personal connection to, at least lyrically speaking.
Yeah. Okay. Ready for a ride?
Here if you need
Strap in.
So, it's a combination of, personal events and, something that everyone can relate to, which, everyone's felt, the fangs of depression sink in at some point, I think. So a lot of it is rooted in that, but more personally, about almost 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I had a seizure for the first time. It kind of came out of nowhere, no explanation for it, and it just happened, right? So a year passed after that, and almost exactly a year later, another one happened. So I'm like, is it just the weather in May, or what's going on with me? But yeah, so after that kind of happened, my lifestyle and just how I acted was a little bit different, right? It felt like I was always walking on eggshells, being super cautious. I don't want to, be driving with someone in my car. I'm so nervous all the time, anxiety. And at some point, I got to this really rough patch where I just wasn't sleeping, just constantly thinking about all the things that could go wrong, right? And this was also in a big transition period in my life, moving from college down to Minneapolis, where I didn't really know anyone. My brother lives out in the suburbs, but that's the only people I really knew. So that's a big piece of it. And I think that was kind of a segue just to like one of the rougher times in my life. personally. And some of the lyrics are very specific. I tried everything. I tried making sure I was drinking enough water. I tried taking vitamins. I tried, doing everything you could think of, biking, everything to try to take my mind off of it. And I just couldn't seem to shake it for the longest time. And I tried praying. I tried everything, which imaginary number is a nod to praying, calling your imaginary number.
That's beautiful.
And some of the lyrics are a little bit more literal. Like one of my episodes, I actually came to, which when you're unconscious and you don't know what's going on and you wake up, you have roughly 60 seconds or a half a minute where you don't know where you are. You don't know who's next to you. You don't know who the president is. You don't know what day it is. And that to me is like one of the most terrifying things I've ever had, because no one wants to feel like they're not in control of their body and their mind and what's going on, right? And very literally the last line of that chorus, which is lie here under teardrops of my brother, I actually was lying on the ground and my brother was crying and like holding me. So it's a very literal description, no secrets or clever roundabouts in that. But yeah, I think the way the song tied together for me was trying to, inject my personal experience with the difficult things that I was going through that kind of just rerouted my life and how I lived, and then I wanted to kind of bring that back and figure out, how can I take experiences that I know other people are going through and tie that into this, because I've seen a therapist. I know friends that see therapists and go through, similar things. Everyone goes through dark days. And the song I think as a whole is about identifying those and figuring out, what's going on. Why is this difficult? How do I move on from it? Right. And I think the toughest part is recognizing it and truly recognizing it, like exactly what. And it's easier said than done. It took me 3 years to pinpoint, this is what I'm doing wrong, and here's what I need to do to move on. And I guess the actual song itself kind of came together at the tail end of one of our practices. I don't play piano. I'm not good at piano. I will never say I am. But at the end, sometimes I'll just come and hit on John's keys, mostly to annoy him.
I get it. This is true. It works.
But this time, I don't know how it worked out, mostly due to John's ability to, and everyone's ability to listen to me mumble, try to explain what I'm thinking, because John's super well versed in music theory, Brian is, Evan is, and I'm just like the drummer that hits things. So I was kind of just messing around, did a little diddle on the keys, and John was like, hey, I like that. And he came over and did exactly what I hoped he would do. And he took over and started playing, an actual riff. And I was like, I'm in love with that. I took out my phone and I recorded it. And we had about a 30-second snippet of John just taking that little 2-key riff that I played and turning it into something beautiful. And at the time it was just John and I in there. And I was like, how do we make this whole? I sent the song to Evan and I was like, Evan, do stuff. And Evan created this beautiful shimmery riff that really gave it that dreamy, kind of feel like you're in a different world.
It's kind of an anti-riff. You've talked about Evan.
Yeah. I call it the anti-riff. I don't know if that's really the proper word for it, but it's more of like a texture-based riff where it's kind of just like, it's not at all integral to a melody or anything.
And you're talking about the chorus.
Yeah, the chorus has like a guitar melody that's not even really a melody. It's just kind of a weird sound.
It's very bendy.
Yeah, very bendy, so I just call it the anti-riff because it's like, it's not anything like a riff, but it is.
And that,
I was gonna say the video to it complements your anti-riff very well.
Yeah, definitely. I love the image of the falling into water.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think it's perfect for this type of song. I think it just the image really spoke to all of us.
And I think, I think it's super symbolic of depression, right? Because
Yeah.
you feel like you're drowning sometimes, right? And it's difficult to, and for me, even just saying the word seizure was impossible for the longest time because my heart would start pounding. I would get anxiety, right? And I felt like a turning point was me explaining this to my bandmates, right? Because I didn't really talk to anybody about it except my therapist and my mom, really, because I felt embarrassed about it for whatever reason. You trick your mind to think that, I don't know how, but like the moment I spoke to these guys about, hey, how do you feel about me incorporating these some of these literal lyrics about this experience? And all three of them, I think we were in the room over there next to the piano trying to figure out how to tie this song together. I think it was Brian or John said, go as deep as you want to go. So I took the very literal words of the experience, and it turned out to be one of my favorite songs on the album. I guess that's probably like a selfish thing, just because
It's a great
but it really, truly, it came together in the studio. Funny thing is, I don't know if you guys remember this, but we were going through the track list and we're like naming off all the songs, and we're like, we have a 9th song. What the hell is it? And we're like,
Oh, we're like wrapping up the album. We're done recording, basically,
And it just speaks to how chaotic recording can be. But like, we're like, guys, what is this? And someone was like, imaginary number. And I don't even think we had the name for it yet, but they said that song. And we're like, oh shit. And like our producer, Jack Vonderchek, really brought that song to life. That bridge where the birds are chirping into the last chorus, that super dreamy, echoey reverb. And to me, that is what really tied the song together and gave it its emotion, I think. It really topped it off. Like, I would have never thought of birds chirping, and Jack was like, birds. And he just he threw it in there, and I was like, oh my God. Like,
Using that baritone guitar on the
Yeah.
verses. So
Yeah.
on the verses, Evan played a baritone guitar. So the bass in the verses is actually played above the baritone. So the baritone's playing the lowest note in the chord.
Yeah, we did some pretty experimental stuff
Yeah,
in there, and
interesting textures.
very interesting textures using a baritone guitar in front of the bass.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing. I was like a little skeptical at first, but Brian really hammered it home with the counterpoint that he used with his bass. It was it's fantastic.
Also, I'd just like to shout out to Brian for being able to like step into an already just like rolling project and contribute just like that, that, especially on the bass side of things. I don't think anyone here is a primary bass player. So sometimes I think we ran into roadblocks trying to figure out where do we go with this, and talk about a guy, just a finisher, tying up all these loose ends we had, and bringing also creativity to bass that we've been missing for a while. So I feel like that's kind of like the story of a couple of our songs. They kind of just in the studio. Logotherapy, the chorus to Logotherapy was written in the studio.
Arguably by our producer.
But seriously, if you go back to one of our recordings from say a year and a half ago of that song, you'll be like, that's a different song.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Different.
Well, yeah.
We've got through 2 years
We
worth
can-
of writing changes with that song.
That song almost became like the verse was almost like reggae, kind of like. I remember at one point there was like a reggae beat, and we had this weird synth pad, and I was like, "What? Where are we
The
going?"
chorus was like a Nirvana, like cry to cure,
Oh,
like
yeah.
at one
it was
point.
just so heavy hitting. It was very power chord driven, just like rock,
Rock.
But now it's like kind of it's evolved so much.
Yeah.
It's gone through so many different writing changes. It's gone through different name changes. It's gone through everything. We've like pretty much changed that song completely. It's gone through an entire transformation since we've written it.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Even the chorus lyrics. So the chorus was written in the studio, and So we had to make new lyrics, or at least, change them up a little bit. And I think we literally all sat like cross-legged in a circle, like, all right, writing down stuff. We're like, what goes well with this? What ties into the song? And
Word
like
association.
word association and stuff like that. And like,
Well, we posed the question too. There's a theme around the chorus, which is, if there's someone in the middle, the song was kind of inspired by Amy Winehouse's documentary, actually. Like,
Oh.
One of the rewrites was like incorporating like that story. And one of the questions like we asked in the studio, I think when we were sitting cross-legged, was like, there's someone in the middle of a room and they're OD'd and they're ODing and like they're somewhat responsive. What are they saying? What are they saying to you? Like, and like, what is the humanity in that, like trying to survive and like, and that, and like, and humanizing that person and like, like, what are they saying? And I think that like that's like what that was, the chorus.
Yeah.
What are the lyrics there?
What I do, it's not up to you.
What I do, it's not up to you. What do you
parts of me I
say?
can't improve.
Parts
Yeah.
of me that I cannot improve.
What I do,
Nothing left to
Nothing left to lose.
look away, you can't make me stay.
Look away, you can't make me stay. Yeah.
Huh.
Look at that all together. It's just-
Yeah.
you figured it out.
If we all put our brains together, we can figure out what the lyrics are to the chorus.
It's funny because I mean it's not like we haven't listened to it 1,000 times. Like
Well, they're still getting surprised sometimes. Like I'll write lyrics to a song and they'll be like, "You said that's what you're saying?"
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I've like done a lot of writing of our lyrics. Like I'll post on our Bandcamp page, and then when I actually read them, I was like, these lyrics are really good. Like I have never read them. They're actually so good.
I love the intentional aspect that you guys have with each other. And then even before, you have this energy and spirit to your band that you grab everybody's attention. But now speaking to you again and hearing how passionate you are and how vulnerable you are, it just is even that more accelerated of just how you can captivate people, visually, lyrically, all of the things. It's so cool.
Thank you.
So cool.
thank you.
It's quite the compliment.
Well, you earned it. Sorry.
Nice job.
There.
Yeah.
We did it. Wrap it up, boys.
All quits.
No. We need more of what you got out there. So you got to keep doing it and then influence other people, because I do think it's extremely important that what you had said earlier is you're not singing pretty songs and filling full of just fillers. It's intentional, and that creates change and connectivity, which we all need.
Yes.
Definitely.
And I think we're constantly evolving in how we write songs and our influences and how can we be Gowns? How can we stick to the original mission we put in place when we first started, and look at all the things that have changed since then. And that's great. And I think that's one of the best things about this group, from my perspective, is that everyone is open to change. I think, or open to new ideas,
Adapting
No
whatever
one-
it takes. Yeah.
yeah, and no one really looks at a riff that someone writes or a drum part or lyrics or whatever it may be and says no. I don't think I've ever seen someone say no in this band. I think there's been instances where we take that and manipulate it in some sort of way, but no one's ever said no, at least from my perspective. I have a pretty short memory sometimes, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's, like, to me, one of the most special parts about working with these guys is I like what you said earlier too about vulnerability. I think everyone in this group is not afraid to be vulnerable. And I think when you can have that, you can really tap into like the deepest part of a person.
right? You can get the most out of people. And I think creativity in a lot of ways is rooted in vulnerability, right? You know, especially like going back to Imaginary Number for me, I think part of me is shocked that I got to that point. But I think, you know, an environment has been created by these guys that allows me to feel like it's a safe space constantly. So, yeah.
I feel like I found that specificity in lyric writing. The more specific it is, the more people it reaches, the more people relate to it.
Yeah.
Because it is so specific and so vulnerable, especially when it's like a real story. I mean, it's written from a real experience as a group or as a person.
I think Amy Winehouse is a testament to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's not the only song that it's like that, you know, like Lighthouse for John, if I remember correctly, is very literal. And I think we even talked about that in our last interview, because at the time that was, you know, what we were releasing. And it's, yeah, I think that's the thing that just really consistently gets me excited about GOWNS is working with guys that are just like true humans, like raw emotional humans that are just, yeah. I mean, obviously there's a fair share of band drama because you need it, right? I think the willingness to rebound from butting heads on any given idea, I think is what's special. We all know, at least I think we all know, that each of us has the best intentions, and we've been through a lot together. Yeah, and I think we're still honing in on our songwriting ability, but I think we've taken leaps and bounds this year. And honestly, a lot of that I would attribute to our producer.
Yeah, shout out to Jack.
He really opened our eyes how to like inject pop into our extreme alt rock roots. You know, you go listen to the EP and it's like 2000s alternative, and now we're trying to figure out again how to keep our roots, but throw in all these things we had previously talked about and figure out a way to do it cohesively and do it the GOWNS way. It sounds cheesy, but yeah.
It's kind of the message of the grunge with more the sound of the new wave or you know, the alt, you know, it's got that polish, which I really like. I think
Yeah.
We love
it's
new
good.
wave.
Yeah.
We're really into
Yeah.
that.
You do.
Well, when I listen to it, it brings me back to songs that it brings me back to a specific nightclub. Like, what song that I used to go to, and I was like, oh, this still sounds, well, it brings me back to a specific nightclub I used to go to when I lived in London. So there you go.
What nightclub? Let's hear it. Let's hear these stories of your nightclub.
Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of the Cannon Ballroom. It kind of exactly reminds me of the Cannon Ballroom. So there you go. Yeah. But I think that what you guys have is just that ability to, you're better together. You make each other better. I think and we see it when you guys are trying to get to the lyrics of your, you know, just now we saw a little tiny mini version of it when you're generously, it's not, as you said, it's not a, nope, that's wrong. It's a just riffing on each other. I think that gets you to a place where you're making music that, as Heather says, you got to keep making. It's awesome music.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I will put this in the notes, but for folks who are listening, tell us how we can find you.
Oh, we're on everything but Twitter, I think.
We're on
Follow us on Twitter.
Twitter and Amazon, I think. Amazon Music, I'm not going to get into it, but absolute headache. But I think the easiest, you know, Spotify and Apple, we're there. Instagram, Facebook, GOWNS Band Official.
I think Instagram and
Our Instagram
Spotify
is
are
at GOWNS Band.
Oh, I think
Gmail.
yeah,
GOWNS Band Official
GOWNS
at Gmail.
GOWNS Instagram is definitely our most active channel.
Yeah.
Sometimes those posts make their way to Facebook. We're still trying to figure out that a little bit. But yeah, and then, you know, Spotify and Apple, I would say are the, you know, I mean we're on SoundCloud and YouTube as well.
YouTube,
I guess YouTube would
Bandcamp.
be the easiest thing.
YouTube would be the funnest too. I mean, because we are so visually driven.
That's what all of our videos are.
We're trying to tell stories, and we love collaborating with people and supporting local artists. So, we try to make as many like animated music videos and music videos as we can, and we get creative. I don't know if y'all have much time, but I would like to talk about the Left Behind video and just plug
Yes,
real
please.
Twin Cities artists at I don't know if this is a good time. Like, do you want to do that now?
Sure. Sure. No time like the present.
Okay.
So
Well,
sweet.
okay, so have you all been to Alligators, the venue?
No.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, and yes. Okay. Alligators is this house venue in Minneapolis. It's my favorite venue in town. I like it. I prefer it to like First Avenue even. I think it is one of the coolest spots. There's this room where the performers play, and surrounding the stage are, I don't know, like 50 TVs that are all playing like the same animation, but the animation is animated in real time.
Amazing.
Analog VHS synthesis. And there's a guy behind a board. You look to the right of the stage, and he's just there, like creating all these animations on the fly. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. And so we got interested. I know that Evan and I had really fallen in love with that venue. And had you all been there?
I've never been.
I never
Okay.
got the chance yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just found it right before the pandemic. So Evan and I were just like, Alligators, right? And like we were just thinking about ways, we don't have tons of money, we're kind of DIY as it is. A lot of our images are DIY, but we were like, what can we do to get creative to cheaply make music videos? And one of those things was, what if we hit up the guy from Alligators and just had him do some VHS synthesis. So we did for our last single that's going to be coming out in 2 weeks?
Yep. 2 weeks from
Yesterday.
yesterday.
2 weeks from
yeah.
yesterday. So yeah, it's called Left Behind, and the music video is killer.
It's
Alex,
amazing.
Alex did the VHS synthesis for that, and he put together, we didn't give him much instruction, we just let him run with it, and he put together a really cool narrative, given some images that we told him compelled us, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, he did a killer job.
Yeah.
Get ready for the first introduction of the GOWNS saxophone.
Ooh, nice.
That was our first saxophone debut.
Nice. Be sure to send us that, and we will post that separately.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. That's is Alligators, is that open now? Are shows going on now?
Shows right now.
That's what I thought.
And it's just it's play by ear basis, but I mean, I'm sure at some point they said they probably want to get rolling again, but yeah, it's just like all dependent on the pandemic and everything, of course, but yeah.
Yeah. Those places can get close.
It's a very tight space, so it's really hard, especially in this time, but yeah, one day.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think of some of the house places that I used to go that actually closed probably 3 or 4 years ago. Not as long as you might have, but yeah. That's awesome. So we're looking forward to the video. Left Behind. We can catch you on all the places. And we'll include the links. And it's great to see all of the videos that you guys have done. And as Heather says, a huge kudos to the vulnerability and to the polish of the sound and just how you all work so well together and maintain true to your ethos. So thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks.